Okay, you can see that I'm actually very close to my line. I got like a 30 seconds of an inch to get there. So that means I got to move my fence over just a little bit. I'm also not cutting deep enough. I need to come up with my blade, so I'm going to raise that up about a 1/4 inch. Set the fence first and then raise my blade. I think that's a 1/4. We'll see. Now I can run it through and I'll check it again. Now I need to still come a little bit closer with my fence. I'm still not there. I actually went away when I should have came closer. That's can be confusing sometimes, even when you supposedly know what you're doing. Okay, so the depth of cut looks to be about right, so I'm going to leave the blade up at the same elevation. Okay, I'm dead on my mark now. I'm exactly on my mark now, so I'm just going to run the other side and then I can run the other piece. This cut doesn't have to go all the way right to the bottom because the nut doesn't. What this is for is to clear the threaded rod as it goes through and it clamps on so that it can actually turn, and that these blocks don't clamp around the threaded rod. There should be space there. So that looks good. I'm just going to run the other piece through. Hit the other nut and I'll do a little test. Put that one on this side, this one on this side. What I need to do is look for my orientation, make sure that they're oriented the same way. I got my little mark on that one and on this one, and I'll put my rod in like so, make sure it's in the grooves correctly, and then I'll put this one on top and see if I'm on the rod, and in this case I am. So my grooves are not deep enough. My V-cut is not deep enough. I'm going to have to go a little bit deeper with my V-cut. I thought that would clear it, but the teeth on this rod are a lot more pointy than the ones on the nut. The ones on the nut are kind of flattened, so I didn't allow for that. So what I'll do, no harm done, I'll just move my fence over a little bit more and run them through again. There's going to be a little trial and error with this. That was to be expected. The important thing is that it works out in the end. You take the time to make sure that you get it right. So I'll do the same test again. Put the rod in. Line up my nut so that it lines up with the marks that I have on it, and then put this piece on top. So what I'm looking for, I still don't have. It's these parts should close together with no interference with the rod, and still it's catching on the rod. So I've got to go deeper again. I'm not taking much off on each pass, so the whole arrangement back in. It's actually rocking this time, so I think I'm there. I think I'm there now. It's very close. but I still got to go a little bit more. The idea here is I wanted to get it as close as possible without making it too sloppy. What this is it guides this rod in nicely once the jaws are closed. So I'll just set that aside, move my fence over yet again, and make another cut. Alright, I got my fingers crossed. Hopefully this time it's good. Yeah, it's rocking again. It's a bit more this time. And then I put the parts on. And that's it. But I definitely have the clearance now between the parts. Okay, I've mixed up some slow set epoxy here to glue in the nuts. I've also cut filler pieces. These are cut at 60 degrees. This is a 60 degree angle. It matches the hex nut on the side like this. I cut those on my chop saw with the blade set to 30 degrees off 90. So, and then I cut them to length on the bandsaw. I also took my chisel and I cleaned out the bottom of the slot a little bit to get a better fit. And I took the nuts and I roughed them up with the grinder so that they'll stick better. And I cleaned them with lacquer thinner. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the epoxy and spread it in the bottom of the cutout all the way across. I'm using epoxy that I trust, that I know is good quality and hardens up really well. It's probably not a good idea to use a faster setting epoxy like 5-minute or instant epoxy. And I get this on the sides too. You don't have to be overly careful about getting it inside there, because really it doesn't matter. You can scrape out whatever you need to after. It's not like much is going to be in the way anyway. So get your epoxy in there, and just be on the safe side, I like to put a little bit on the part itself. It doesn't need it, but at least then you're sure that it's coated. I'll put it on here and on the two slope sides. Now these are still marked for orientation, and I need to be careful about that. So I'll take the nut and put it in. Press it down and try to center it as best I can. Now I look inside and I can see I got a lot of squeeze out inside there. I'm not going to put these blocks in just yet. I'm going to get this taken care of first. The thing about epoxy, it takes a while for it to set, so I've got time. I'm trying not to touch the surfaces that I cleaned. Even if your hands are clean, they still have a little bit of oil on them, so that affects the adhesion. And this needs all the help it can get because it doesn't have any mechanical fastening. It's relying solely on this glue to hold it in place. So that's my mark side. Line it up properly and slip it in. Press it in. Now the next step is to clamp it together. I got the rod here. What I'm going to try to do is get that pretty much centered so it's balanced. And then Put this piece on top, like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a couple of clamps on that. And I'm actually going to clamp it down to the table. Alright, I got a couple of, it really doesn't need to be clamped tight, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just to hold it in place until the glue sets. And that's going to be overnight. I'm not going to play with this anymore today. I'm going to give this epoxy a lot of time to set up. Okay, once these are, you want to push them in, make sure they're well seated. It's my guess that these are not going to fall out, so I'm not going to worry about taping them in or something. They're a pretty good fit in there to begin with, and they're so light that they're actually, there's not much risk that they'll fall out. So I'm just going to glue the other parts on. This one goes in above. Slip it in, and then one goes on the other side. There are other ways to cut out for this nut. I could have, instead of making a notch right across, I could have cut it out with a chisel. That would have taken a long time, and really, it doesn't need to be. It didn't need to be done. These blocks here were quickly cut to the accurate bevel. I've got the nuts. The nuts are up tight against the back of the notch. The notch is the right width. Everything is good. So this is actually the better way of doing it. After this sets overnight, I'll cut these off with the bandsaw, and then I'll plane them down flat, or I'll sand them down flat.